Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of WilksWorld.com, and I am so incredibly grateful that you are taking the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Friends, at the D-Rate the Hate podcast, it's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time. See, we did not create the hate, but with your help, we can derate the hate. That all starts with gratitude and personal accountability. We cannot control everything that happens to us in life, but we can control how we react to it. How we act, how we react, no matter what happens to us, how we react to it makes the difference. Friends, there is only one good thing about a bad attitude, and that is that we have the ability as individuals to change it. Here on the DTH podcast, we strive to bring you great guests and provide tools to do just that. Please be sure to share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't done so. Ratings and feedback are always greatly appreciated. And with that, let's get to this week's episode. Friends, as you've probably figured out by now, one of my favorite things to do is have conversations. And I don't mean just for this podcast, but I've had incredible opportunities to have conversations with people from all over this planet. And one of my favorite things is when somebody truly speaks from the heart, somebody is truly genuine and says what they mean, what they feel, and how they think life should be. Now, many people in this day and age, and one of the problems that I see with society is that so many people are afraid to say what they feel, what they believe. And I think that probably has a lot to do with cancel culture. But I will tell you that my new friend, Nico Lagan, is not one of those people that's afraid of what people are going to think when he says it. He speaks with a genuine purpose because he has a purpose. He knows who he is and what he wants other men to be. And that's exactly what he does. Nico is a social media strategist, men's coach, author, podcaster, and all-around internet sensation that brings thought-provoking discussions on masculinity, conservative news, common sense insights, politics, humor, stoicism, Gnosticism, Christianity, and so much more. This guy is awesome to listen to. I'm honored to call him a friend. And while we have very different styles, we have developed a pretty cool bond, and I'm so incredibly grateful to have him on this episode of the D-Rate the Hate podcast, and I think you're going to be very pleased with what we've got to say. Stay tuned for this incredible conversation, my friends, with my new friend, Nico Lagan. Here we go. Nico Lagan, thank you for joining me on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend. So good to see you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. When I saw the kind of work that you're putting out there, Nico, one of the things that we find in society today is that we hear a lot about this toxic masculinity and how that's supposed to be something that people are shaming it, right? And I personally, I don't get that. I thought, growing up, I was always one that I wanted to strive to be a good man, a strong man. I think a masculine man is a good man, and now there are so many people out there. And I don't want to get into the straw man thing, but there are so many people out there, right? I mean, they're not hard to find. You see the stuff in so many different places nowadays, where they kind of run down this whole masculinity thing. Nico, Tell me what this journey was for you. How did that start to where you knew you had to focus on helping men become masculine again?
Like a father. It's really that simple. It's very interesting how my father was never really present when I was younger. He was always on the road. He was an engineer, so he was always away. And at the age of 14, my parents got divorced. I became a statistics where my mom became my sole parent because I saw my dad a bunch of time, like a handful of time. By the time he died, I was 29 when he died, and he left when I was 15. So I barely saw him. We weren't speaking. So I didn't have a masculine man in my life. And naturally, I think it is in our DNA as a man to look for a father figure, to look for somebody that we can mold ourselves after. And every man out there does it. But the issue that I faced is I didn't know what a strong man was. I did not know what a good man was. So I looked at 14 years old back in the 90s. I was big fan of rap, and I idolized guys like Wu-Tang Clan, Mobb Deep, Tupac, Notorious B.I.G., guys that lived in the ghetto that mostly are raised by women that were never around good men either. So I looked at them as heroes and say, oh man, if they're capable of getting so much money, women, cars, I have to emulate what they're doing, because
Mm-hmm,
this is
mm-hmm.
how they made it happen. They went from being poor to being rich. And to me, this is what it was all about, right? And it's interesting how the lack of a masculine man in my life put me on a path of self-destruction. And and I did it for 6 years, 7 years almost. I became an addict. I was both an alcoholic, a drug addict. I was selling drugs. I quit school. I was 15 years old, left my mother's place. I was 17, and I was on my own doing whatever the fuck I wanted to. Oh, I apologize. First F-bomb.
That's all right. No
Um,
worries.
that one is calculated. That one I will own. Like we were saying before the podcast, I will own that one because I was an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, we've all made our mistakes, and the important part is to own up to them and own it.
you
I
have
like the
to.
way you say that. You own it.
You have to. You don't have a choice, because look at today's problem. And this, we see a lot of issues in today's society. No matter what the issue is, we always try to find problems and to find solutions, but yet we never focus on the actual problem itself. We're always focusing on symptoms. And the lack of masculinity, I thought, was the problem. For a very long time, I thought this was society's biggest problem. And then over the past year, I realized that the biggest problem we're facing today is a lack of self accountability. Show me a problem, I can point you somebody that didn't do their job, that did not own to their responsibility. Any
Keeps going
problem,
right back
always.
to us, right
I
back to us.
don't I don't care what the issue is. I can show you someone that refused to do his job and that pointed at other people to say it's their fault. They need to be doing that. They played the victim. This is our biggest problem in today's world. And when I was 20, I was in a situation where I got offered a job to do a lot of money, but to dig deeper into the world of drugs. And when you're hurting. I was packing my apartment because I was getting kicked out. I was being evicted from my apartment because I partied way too much. I did way too much noise. Like I was not a good tenant. Let's call
Right.
a spade here. And I'm literally sitting amongst boxes with no place to go. I was going to the street. I had no place to go. And my mom gave me a call. Like I literally had a choice I could dig deeper and take an opportunity that would take me from selling drugs to producing it. Or I get a phone call from my mother asking me a very simple question. Are you happy?
Yeah,
And one of the things that changed my output, my mindset, that changed the way I see the world, is that day I became aware.
yeah.
It was the first time in my life that I was really in a situation where I was as bad. I don't think that change is possible unless you're hurting. You need to be at the bottom. You need to hit rock bottom in order to be ready to listen. Most people, the
That's right.
first time that they become aware of their problems, that they are the problem, always comes from a hurt. It always comes from being
Yeah.
rock bottom and finally not being able to lie to yourself anymore. To just,
Right, right. I mean, I think when people are content, Nico,
of
they
course.
they become content. They become complacent.
Yep.
They see no reason to change. I mean, it's one of those things. It's just like I mean, I saw on the beginning of your website, and it's something that I've seen a number of different places and said a number of different ways now. Right? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. It's a cycle. Our individual lives, men, women, whatever. I don't care who you are talking about. We as individuals have that same cycle, right?
Yep.
Because if we're living good times, if we're not having any problems, if we're not an addict that's constantly waking up feeling like garbage and trying, or like big fat tubby guy and having a hard time breathing, getting up the stairs, right? You have no reason, no no real drive. I mean, some people naturally have that drive, but most people, human nature, most people have to experience those hard times in order to find the drive to go further, to get better.
You have to. As you said, some people don't have to, and the only reason that I believe that they don't have to is because they were brought up that way.
Right.
Like I've been married before and divorced today, but I've been married, and my ex-wife and her older brother from a young age have been put on spreadsheets, have been shown by their fathers how to run a business, because he's a self-made millionaire, comes from an immigrant family that had no money. He worked his ass off his whole life in order to accomplish something, but yet he turned around and he showed that to his kids. They were 20 years old. They were 20 and 22 or 20 and 25, and they owned 2 gyms. This is amazing. And this is because it's taught. And in the same way as they understood, they never questioned that without hard work, nothing's possible. So from the get-go, they understood that. Now, is that going to stay constant throughout their life? Who knows? If they don't continue doing the work, it won't, because whatever we're talking about, yes, I hit rock bottom when I was 20, and I was offered two opportunities to say, okay, do I dig deeper, or do I decide to go right and restart all over again? Just hit reset and say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to move back to my mom. I'll pick up a job. I'll go back to school. I'll drop drug. I literally stopped drinking, smoking. I stopped doing drugs. I quit all of my friends. I literally disappeared and went into my mother's house, picked up a job, started studying. That's it. That's what my life became.
Well, and that's and congratulations for that, Nico, because I'm sure like you, or like me, you've got friends that went down and took that other path, right? That fork in the road. That other fork ends up typically in one of two places, either dead or in prison. And a lot of people, they think, oh, okay, it's that quick, easy money. Like you were talking about the rappers earlier. It's that quick, easy money, that thug life that, I can get the women, I can get the cars, I can get the other thing. What they don't show and what's not accentuated in that lifestyle that they show on whatever, I don't know, MTV or whatever it was. I don't watch television, but back in the day it was MTV, right? What they don't show is the 999,999 guys out of a million that end up broke, dead, or in prison, right? And it comes right back to the two things that you were talking about: having a strong, positive male figure in your life, and then personal accountability. That personal accountability, being self-aware. So many things that I talk about come right back to that thing, just like you're talking about, Nico, is I can point to almost every bad thing that's happened in my life and say, you know what? That's you. It's you, me. I'm the one that's accountable for that because I made this decision or I made that decision. People so many times nowadays try to think that, they try to get into that mindset of, well, I can make decisions, but I don't have to be accountable for the consequences of those decisions. And they're going to cast that blame off on somebody else as if somebody else made that decision for you, right?
And you know what? There's this saying that I invented that it's super simple. If your life sucks, chances are it's your fault.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But this is the first thing you need to tell yourself. You need to understand that from the get-go, that if your life sucks, it's your fault. It is just that simple. But we just don't want to admit it to ourselves that we suck. And if our life sucks, it's our fault, because it's that simple. But at the same time, we're robbing ourselves from the power of understanding that if we have the capabilities of making our life suck, that means that on the back end, we have all the power in the world to make our life great.
Make it not suck, right?
Oh no, forget not suck. Not suck is not good enough. We have the potential to make our life great, but it falls on own it.
Yeah.
responsibility. It's accountability. It goes to you.
Yeah. No, you have to own it. Yeah, I mean, there was I've heard it said a number of different ways over the course of my life, because I spent a lot of my life miserable. Thankfully,
Yeah.
I've done a hell of a lot of drinking, but thankfully, drugs have never been my thing. Thank God. Nothing ever agreed with me. So that is in a way a real blessing for me, because I definitely have an addictive personality. But that misery, in a lot of ways, I'd call myself addicted to misery back in the day. I never had what I call, the perpetual victim mentality that I talk a lot about nowadays, Nico.
That's a good thing.
But I was a miserable person, angry person, a lot of resentment, and that whole thing that you talk about, where people want to cast that blame on other people. I was one that I could figure out a way to say, well, my life sucks because of this, or my life sucks because of you, or if I just had a different job, life would be better. If I just lived in a different place, life would be better. And that is where so many people get, I think they get hung up on is we can change where we live, we can change where we work, we can change this, and we can change that, but until we change us as an individual, things are not going to change. It's still going to suck. So, Nico, talk to me about you talk about these 5 virtues of a good man. So let's get back into that part, the masculine man, the having the positive figure. One of the biggest problems that I see in society today, and I'm glad you alluded to it a little bit earlier, was people don't want to talk about the root cause. They always want to talk about the symptoms. I think that's one of the biggest problems with the American political system today, is politicians have no interest in looking at the root cause of things. They play around with the symptoms like a cat plays with a ball of yarn, trying to make people think that they're actually doing something when they're not. I talk about the root cause problem solving all the time. I'm a business guy, and without attacking the root cause of our problems, we tend to just make more problems. It's job security for politicians, but it does nothing for the American people. So talk to me about, let's get back into this thing about, a good man, masculine man, however you want to phrase it, but the 5 virtues of a good man. Talk to me about those, man.
So let me start by saying that I did not invent those. Like what I talk, yes, I call them 5 virtues of a good man because this is the words that I choose to use. I'm a Stoic person. Like, I love Marcus Aurelius. I love old Roman mythology. I'm a big fan of Gnosticism. I'm a big fan of religions from 2000 years ago. I'm a big fan of understandings from 2000 years ago, and Stoic being one of them. And I repackaged kind of their teachings into something that's applicable to today's world, because those principles that I talk about are going to be real way after I die, and they were real way before I was ever born. So
Sure.
I'm not one of those that's going to take, oh, those are mine. So yes, I call them 5 virtues of a good man, but they're just repackaged. So to me, a good man needs to have 5 virtues. He needs to be courageous. He needs to be a protector. He needs to be a provider. He needs to have temperance, and he needs to have faith. Courage, pretty self-explanatory. You'll never achieve anything in your life if you're not courageous.
That's right.
And unlike popular belief, courage does not mean a lack of fear. On the contrary, you wouldn't be courageous if you're not scared. You're just doing whatever it is that you need to do. That's not courage. Courage is doing something that you're scared of doing, but doing it anyway. This is what courage is. Yep. And this is the number one thing. Without courage, you won't achieve anything. You will not achieve anything. This is why courage is the first one. Being a protector. As men, we're run by testosterone, meaning we're bigger, we're stronger, we're faster, we're more muscular, we take more risks. It is on us to become the protector of our families. We are the first and the last line of defense against our family, society, like our community or country. We are always the first and the last line of defense. This is part of our DNA. We need to develop our skills to become a protector. Now, what does that mean? Well, first and foremost, you need to take care of your body. Treat your body like a machine. Treat your body the way you treat your car. Like today, most people take better care of their cars than they do themselves. And this is preposterous to me. And this is the first thing. But the beautiful thing about taking care of your body is that you start realizing that, yes, your body's a machine. Yes, it's supposed to operate at a certain level to give all the nutrients to your body that your brain needs to work. Without treating your body like a machine, you'll never be able to accomplish what your brain's truly capable of doing. But at the same time, you start realizing that, you know how powerful of a force it is to look at yourself in the mirror. Maybe you're too skinny, maybe you're too fat, and just say, okay, this is me. Now, if I start eating properly and I start going to the gym, you will see a physical change. You can simply take your shirt off and look in the mirror, and you will know right away what's working and what's not. There's no bull, there's no lies, there's nothing. It is physical. It's something that's tangible. Like compared to having faith, for example, faith is belief, right? It's not something you can grasp. But your physical health is something that you can see. You feel it in yourself. You know right away. There's no lying to yourself. If you're truthful, if you're accountable, if you're ready to do what it takes, there's no bullshit. You know that is there.
I know. I every morning when I get out of the shower, I look at myself. I'm like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? But it took a long time to get here. It took a long time to get back. But yeah, I am one, Nico, just full honesty, full disclosure, somebody that has completely let myself go. I'm one of those people that take better care of most everything else in my life than I do my own body. And so I am guilty of that. And there's nobody to blame for that but me.
And you know, this is, if you treat your body like a dumpster, how can you ever expect to be happy? How can you ever expect to not be depressed? How can you ever expect to that your brain is going to operate the way it should be? You can't put crap into a machine and expect that machine to work. It doesn't.
Right.
But unlike a machine, our mind is connected to our body. Mm-hmm. So depression. This is a word I absolutely hate. I hate depression because I don't believe in it. I don't believe in depression at all. Okay. Show me somebody that's depressed. I'll show you somebody that likes purpose. I've never met anybody that was purposeful that was depressed. The reason men are depressed is that they don't have any purpose in their life. They don't know the reason why they're here. Why would I ever be? What's the point of me being alive if I have no reasons to be here? Might as well just shoot myself right now. Might as well just blow my brains out, because I will feel like crap all the time. So not only are men today treating their body like a dumpster, like we're looking at 42% of Americans are obese, 30% of Americans are overweight. That means 72% of Americans at the moment are not treating their body properly. Mm-hmm. 72%. That means 28% are in acceptable shape. It doesn't mean that they're athletes. It just means that they're taking care of their body to a certain extent. And it's not that complicated. You don't even need to go to,
right?
Oh, you don't even need to go to the gym. Just be more careful about what you eat. That's it. Go for a walk instead of sitting your ass on the couch. It's that simple. But 28%, I was looking at a video where Cardone was talking about, he was talking to one of my friends that I know. And in the interview, Cardone is telling him, he's like, hey, bro, do you have abs? And I know the guy yes, he's ripped. He's absolutely jacked. So he's like, he's like a 25-year-old kid looking at one of the richest guy in America. And he's like, of course I have abs. And he shows his abs, like he's proud of it. Right. Yeah. He's like, well, let me tell you something. 1 out of 10 American are millionaires. Less than 1% of Americans have visible abs. It's 10 times more likely that you'll be a millionaire than you will have abs.
Wow.
Yet, having abs is 100% on you. I can tell you right away, when I eat too much, I always keep around 10% body fat, which I always have abs, right? And I can tell you, if there's a week I was not as good on my diet as another, it shows right away. I feel it. I don't like it. Yeah. That's 100%. You realize that it's 100% on you. But how insane is that there's 10 times more millionaires than there are people with abs? Yet abs, you have no excuse. I don't care how poor you are. There's nothing stopping you from eating better and exercising, because you don't need to go to the gym. And even if you did, Planet Fitness and for a guy that's traveled all over the US, there's more than 3,000 locations, Planet Fitness. And I hate that gym. I'm not recommending it. And this is not a sponsorship. I hate that gym. But what I'm saying is they're everywhere. So you have no excuse. They're like $25 a month.
Oh yeah, no,
$25
I think there's probably more gyms around now than there are decent decent restaurants these days. But
100%.
but yeah, how many people don't go? I mean, like I said, I'm as guilty of this as anybody.
Yep.
And yeah. I mean, it's so easy to fall into that thing, because I'm somebody who at one point in time kept pretty good care of myself. Now it's one of those things, you get so busy doing so many other things, and then you let go of it. But again, goes right back to the same thing. Nobody to blame for that but me.
And this is where it starts. So, but this is the first part, like treating your body, because at the end of the day, can you really say that somebody loves themselves if they don't take care of themselves?
No. There's definitely something lacking there, you know. It's self-awareness again.
Show me somebody that's depressed, I will show you somebody that's not taking care of their body, somebody that's not taking care of their mind, and somebody that has no faith.
Yeah.
Every time. I have not met one single person that had purpose that was depressed. But how do you find purpose? By first treating your body with the respect that it is due.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, as I say that a man needs to be a protector, he needs to be in great shape. He also needs to know how to fight in order to know how to defend himself, to defend his family, to defend his society, to defend his community, to defend what he believes in. Because again, we are the first and last line of defense. At the same time, I was bullied when I was younger, and for forever I was a victim. In my head, I was a victim, and I knew it. Mm-hmm. I've always been honest about myself. I was a victim, and I knew it. I knew that if something happened, I would be a big pussy, and I wouldn't do anything about it, because I've done it before. I would do it again. And you know what? When I started taking care of my body, when I started hitting the gym in college, I started getting very honest with myself, because when you start changing your mindset to say, okay, it's my responsibility, what I want to do right now. What can I do to better myself? Okay. I stopped seeing all my friends. I stopped doing drugs. I stopped selling. I stopped doing everything. And I concentrated on making something better out of myself. I started developing my mind more, but I started developing my body. And then I'm like, bro, you're a bitch. Say what you will. You're a pussy. You're a coward. And if somebody were to attack you right now, you would coward because you've done it before. Chances are you do the exact same thing. So what can you do? I can continue being a victim, or I could admit this to myself and say, you know what? I will learn how to fight. And this is what I did. But it's interesting how when you start developing your body, you start realizing that you're a lot tougher than you think, that you do have power over yourself. You have, yes, again, as we said, your life sucks because of you, but also your life can, as you said, not suck if you start understanding, if you start treating yourself as the main ingredient to your success. And the day I stepped in a gym, I was scared shitless. Are you kidding me? I'm going to places where there's trained killers, and I'm like, hey, let's fight. You teach me how not to be a little pussy, okay? That's the deal. And I'm going to pay you. Here's money. Show me how to be a man. So
right.
I had no intentions of ever fighting, of ever stepping into a ring. All I wanted to do is not be a bitch anymore.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, I was stepping into a ring. And I'm proud to say that my mind switched from just learning how to fight on how to become a better fighter. And I set myself a goal. I want to win a amateur belt. So I won the biggest tournament in North America 9 years ago.
And nice. Very cool.
And this was my goal. Like, I fought about 12 times, and this was never my plan. This was never part of it. And I was scared shitless every single time before stepping in a ring. Are you kidding me? I agreed with another guy that our goals to destroy each other. Whoever knocks the other guy out first is the winner. This is, and you know the date, you know when, you know who. This is not.
It gives you a lot of time to think about it. I don't think a lot of people realize that. I boxed for a while in the latter part of high school, and then been in a number of boxing matches in my day. It was never great, not by a long stretch. Probably lost more fights. I know for a fact as a boxer, I lost more fights than I ever won. And I'm pretty sure in bars and all the fights that I did outside of there, Nico, probably lost more than I won. But yeah, I'm somebody who was bullied incessantly for a number of years as a young guy, and I got to a point where, you know what, I said, yeah, this is one thing I'm not going to be bullied anymore. I don't care if I lose, I will not be bullied, and that was one of those things where, you know, a lot of kids, are so afraid of the fight, they'll just take the beating. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is exactly what I was. 100%.
And I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I will take a beating, but I'm not going to take a beating without giving one too. And and it's an ugly thing, but it goes right back to what we were talking about. You know, how do we become that man? Because not everybody on the planet's going to be the best fighter. You know, a lot of I remember as a kid, you know, this is something I think about a lot because I idolized my dad so much, and in my mind, my dad was this, you know, this ultimate badass, and in a lot of ways, I think he was. I still believe he was. He's been dead now for a number of years. But I think there's so many of us, you know, that we're lucky enough to have, you know, two loving parents. You know, we all think we had the toughest dad, right? Our dad was the best at football. Our dad was the best fighter. Our dad was the best, blah, 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 blah. Not everybody can be the best. And I think that kind of builds these false expectations sometimes for men, right? But you know what? We can work towards being the best that we can be. We may not be the best out of everybody, but we can damn sure be the best individual we can be, and that's one place where I had to get to, because I was never by any stretch the kind of person that somebody would call an athlete, let alone an elite athlete. Definitely not, you know, an athlete. But I was a person that you know, I wasn't going to back down from anything or any challenge, and I was going to be the best that I could be, that my personal potential would warrant. And I think that's important.
Powerful, but that's so much more powerful.
Oh, for sure.
Knowing that you're not, because not everybody's physically gifted.
Right.
Not everybody is going to be a good fighter. Not everybody has courage by default. A lot of us are cowards. Being a coward is one thing, but staying a coward is a choice, right?
That's right.
And
that's right.
The thing is to me, I've always been physically gifted. Like I've been in fitness my whole life. I've always been in good shape. That's something my mother has instilled in me. I come from a military family. So to me, being outside, playing sports was a must. I've always been in shape. I will die in shape. Shut my two arms, my two legs, I'll find a way to exercise. But when I look at, I was never the greatest fighter either. Even to this day, after 20 years of martial art, there's some guys that I'm like, you know what? If him and I get into a fight, oh man, it's gonna suck. Oh man, it's gonna suck.
It's gonna be bad.
But one thing I will promise him, we'll see each other at the hospital. One thing is for sure, I'm not gonna go down like a little pussy. I can tell you that much.
Yep.
But this is something that is built when you know that you're not the most physically gifted somebody. How many athletes do you see that are physically gifted? They're just phenom. Like physically, they're just, God touched them and say, you will be an athlete. This is
right
in your life.
Yep. You were born with abs.
But they are so weak mentally because they have been that way their whole life. It's never something that they had to achieve. It's never something that they had to work for. It was God-given.
Yep.
And then you have those specific athletes where have the mindset on top of physically gifted. That's why you have GOATs and all-time great. But all to say that I have so much respect for people that don't come from that background, that don't have that physical gift to just say, you know what, I accept that. But one thing's for sure, I'll go down swinging.
Yep. Well, and that goes back to what you had said earlier, Nico, was, you know, being a courageous person is not about not having fear, because again, I can take this whole thing full circle in that, you know, we as individuals, I think it's important to recognize, okay, I'm not the greatest fighter. I'm not the best, but I am going to make sure you know I was there if
Mhm.
you try to come after me. I mean, plain and simple, because going back to that victim mindset I talked about before, and you know, you talked about being bullied as a kid. I was bullied as a kid. That's where a lot of my anger, a lot of my resentment
Yep.
came from, you know, and I mean, just the explosive temper that I used to have, and my horrible habit of punching walls and punching all these different other things. Sometimes people busting my hands, breaking my fingers, breaking my, oh my God. I just, you know, all of that ugly that came out of that, but just that personal sense of accomplishment when you get to a point where, you know, we talked about the times we spent in the ring, and you know, that time that you're thinking about that ahead of time, and you're looking at this person, and maybe you, like me, thought back to the ass whoopings that you've taken in your life, and you're like, is this going to be another time? But you get in the ring anyway. You know, I think about the times when I've gotten in the ring, or I think about the times when I've gotten on a bull, or things where I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to hurt because I am going to get busted up,
Yep.
but you do it anyway. Now, taking that to the next level, like you talked about, Nico, a man's sense, a man's search for meaning. I think about Viktor Frankl, and
Yep.
a man can endure almost any what if he has the why. What is our purpose? If
Mhm.
we have a purpose, we can endure nearly anything. It's those that have no purpose that end up being the ones that they're miserable, they're depressed, they don't, you know, they just wake up and they're like, why am I even here? You know, this that is the kind of thing that we need to work through. I know we're getting towards the end of our time, Nico. This has been an awesome conversation. Round me out with what are the biggest takeaways that you want people, you know, when they think of Nico Lagan, what are the things that you want them to take away, and just how, yeah, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best bang for their buck when it comes to Nico Lagan?
You know, at the end of the day, I want to help men with two things. I want to help men find purpose. I wrote a whole book on how to do it, and this is the number one thing I want to do. But once men have found a purpose, I also want to show them how to take it to the next level, how to quit their corporate job, how to become self-independent, how to become great, for lack of a better term. And that's why I call myself a social media, like a social media strategist, because if you become what you need, what you want, if you know what you want to be, if you find purpose, social media is a perfect way to amplify it, if you will. So that's how I connect both. And at the end of the day, that's all I want. I want to help men go after what they need, because it is not easy today. No matter what you're looking at, being a man is hard. It's a lot harder than being a woman. You know, there's a lot of accounts that are coming out, and I don't know if you've read some of them, but of women becoming men, like being trans,
Yeah,
becoming
yeah,
men, and then committing suicide because they're like, oh wow, I lived as a man, and they cannot fathom what it is to be a man. Women
sure.
take being a woman. You know, I always use this example. If you can get the ugliest woman, put her in a bar, she'll find somebody to sleep with her.
Hmm.
But do you know that it's something like 50 to 60% of men cannot get women at all?
Yeah,
Zero. 95% of women fight for the top 5% of men. Do you know how women depend? Why do you think women get so many surgeries done when they get older? Because their power over men starts dwindling. They're
yeah,
not able to get. So imagine that you've never had it.
yeah,
Imagine that your whole life you've never held that power.
yeah,
So being a
yeah.
man's not easy. And that's why we need to put those things, those virtues into place to at least give men purpose, to say, you know, this is your job. You need to be courageous. You need to be a protector. You need to provide. You need to be tempered, control your emotions, or else they will control you.
That's
And
right.
have faith. This is the last thing I'd like to do, because I'm a Christian, but I'm not your typical Christian, right?
Hmm, hmm.
And faith to me is the thing I would love to bring to the table in a way that it makes sense to people. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, but I am a connector. I want people to understand what a non-denominational church or Gnostic teachings are. And faith, we need faith. Like if we break it down this way, faith, replace the word faith by belief. If you never believe that you can accomplish something, you'll never build self-confidence.
That's right.
If you never believe in somebody that you meet that they are the person they say they are, you will never build new relationships. If you do not believe that you have a reason for being here, that you have life purpose, you will never be happy.
That's right.
Without faith in yourself, in others, and in the fact that you were built for a reason, call it God, call it nature, call it the universe, I call it God, but call it whatever you want.
Sure.
How can you ever have purpose? How can you ever have a reason for being here if you don't first have faith? And this is what
right. That's absolutely right.
I have not found a way to disseminate that information properly right now, because the word faith is always associated with religion, when it can, but it doesn't have to. It really doesn't have to be. Just call it belief. But it's impossible to accomplish anything. It's impossible to do anything if you don't believe.
That's right. That's right. Well, Nico Lagan, thank you so much for joining me on the Derate the Hate podcast, my friend. It's been an incredible conversation. We're definitely going to have to do this again. Try to collaborate some more here in the future. Such important work that you're doing. People have to have purpose. There can't be this stigma with this toxic male masculinity that we've got to work through that. It's a nonsensical movement that has done so much damage to men nowadays. And with you rounding out that point, talking about it is very difficult to be a man. That's why men far surpass female suicides and things like that. And I have have friends, have talked to people, that whole female to male transition, and they're like, yeah, I wouldn't expect that living a man was going to be this.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Sometimes we have to figure out those hard lessons for ourselves, right? And
100%.
And you know what, Nico, great conversation. Great to have you here on the Derate the Hate podcast. Stay well, my friend, and keep doing the work that you're doing. You're awesome.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the Derate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week, saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.